Legendary has officially announced the Godzilla x Kong 3, with the story picking up right after the events of the New Empire. But even though this will be the third crossover, the MonsterVerse is far from wrapping up. For Warner's, this franchise has become one of the most profitable in recent years, and it's clear the producers have no plans to slow down. The expansion of the MonsterVerse is full steam ahead, and one of the most anticipated directions for this universe is a second Kong movie. The thing is, Godzilla has already gotten a lot more attention, 2 solo movies, and even a spin-off series from Apple. Meanwhile, Kong's live-action journey has been a lot more modest. He's only had one solo film so far, which came out all the way back in 2017. By the time GXK3 hits theaters, it will have been nearly a decade without a proper sequel for him. That alone is a solid reason to finally continue his arc, and from what it looks like, Legendary already has a concept in mind. We're talking about Son of Kong. This idea was being discussed even before the New Empire dropped, and it wasn't just some random rumor. There was legit insider info floating around that Warner Brothers had seriously been considering Son of Kong as the next step after the New Empire. But in the end, the studio chose a more predictable, safer route, wrapping up the Godzilla x Kong trilogy before diving deeper into individual storylines. Even though we still know nothing about the actual plot of the third crossover, the fact that Son of Kong is still very much in the cards is already a big deal. No one at the studio has officially denied its development, and that silence says a lot. In fact, the New Empire already dropped a few not-so-subtle hints that could easily be setting the stage for that future storyline. One of the biggest clues is the introduction of a youngest member of the giant ape species named Zuko. His dynamic with Kong is clearly built on a father and son model. You've got Zuko, persistent but inexperienced, and Kong acting as the stern protector and mentor. That's not just a throwaway subplot, it's a classic setup for a future narrative arc. There's a strong chance that their relationship could become the emotional core of a potential Son of Kong movie, with Kong not just mentoring Zuko but fully stepping into a father figure role, teaching him survival, fighting skills, and maybe even passing on the legacy of their entire species. But the concept wouldn't just be about that emotional bond and coming-of-age story. It also opens the door to exploring Kong's own backstory and the history of his kind on a much deeper level. Based on certain scenes in the New Empire, it really seems like the studio is ready to go there. We might finally get flashbacks, ancient lore, glimpses of Kong's civilization, their rise, their downfall, and what that means for his future. Skull Island was a great introduction, no doubt, but one movie just wasn't enough to explore the full potential of Kong's arc. And now, with so many years gone since its release, and with Kong's popularity skyrocketing thanks to the crossovers, it's more obvious than ever. A second solo movie isn't just a good idea, it's essential. Son of Kong feels like the perfect way to move the story forward, not just as a natural evolution for the character, but as a smart and meaningful expansion of the MonsterVerse as a whole. That said, Son of Kong isn't exactly a brand new idea. The original was released way back in 1933 as a direct sequel to King Kong. This was long before cinematic universes or post-credit teasers were a thing, but even back then, studios understood the importance of capitalizing on success quickly. The original film had a much lighter tone. It was more of a fantasy adventure with comedic elements. The plot followed a group of humans who, while exploring the tropical jungles of Skull Island, stumble upon Kong's son. He was a smaller, white-furred gorilla, noticeably gentler and friendlier than his father. Now though, the MonsterVerse has the tools to retell that story on a whole new level, with epic scale, emotional depth, and the kind of visuals modern audiences expect. In the original Son of Kong, there was zero explanation for where Kong's son actually came from. No mention of a mother, no backstory, nothing. He just shows up. The characters find him on Skull Island, and that's it. And honestly, judging by how the film presents it, he wasn't even necessarily meant to be Kong's biological son, more like a symbolic heir, someone carrying the torch. That film, after all, was rushed into production almost immediately after the success of King Kong. It was made on a shoestring budget, and you can tell. There was no time or money for deep lore or logical consistency. It was more of a quick follow-up than a true expansion, and in a weird way, that might actually be the approach Legendary ends up echoing. Not in terms of quality, but in terms of storytelling. It's pretty unlikely the new MonsterVerse version of Kong is going to have a biological child. That's just not the kind of story this universe tells. It's not about family trees and romance arcs, it's about legacy and mentorship. So if Son of Kong does happen, the son will most likely be adopted. Call it whatever you want. The idea is that Kong will take someone under his wing, and that someone is clearly shaping up to be Zuko. He's already been introduced and audiences know him. There's no need to create a brand new character and just build on what's already there. Let Zuko grow, evolve, gain strength and personality. If his arc is written well, he could easily become one of the major players in MonsterVerse. And this isn't just wishful thinking from fans. Even before the New Empire came out, the producers openly stated that 2 characters would be absolutely key for the franchise moving forward, Jia and Zuko. At the time, it felt like marketing fluff, a way to hype up new faces and draw attention to emotional subplots. And to be fair, Zuko didn't exactly get a lot of screen time. He came off more like a supporting character, just a small ape from Hollow Earth. But if you go back and consider what the producers said, it becomes clear that they've got bigger plans for him. He's not just background background, he's a seed, and he's meant to grow, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. He could evolve to become more intelligent than any other Titan. Maybe he starts understanding humans. Maybe he even learns to communicate, not just through gestures, but maybe even speech or some kind of symbolic language. And his role could end up mirroring Gia's. She was the bridge from humans to monsters, the one who connected emotionally with Kong and helped the audience understand him. Zuko could become the bridge from monsters to humans, the first kaiju to truly reach across the gap in the other direction. That's not just a cool twist, it's a massive narrative leap forward for the entire franchise. It sets the stage for a whole new level of storytelling, and could push the MonsterVerse into bold, fresh territory we've never seen before. Son of Kong has the potential to completely refresh the MonsterVerse, not just by delivering another Titan showdown, but by offering a fully realized story filled with legacy, emotional depth, inner conflict, and long-awaited lore about Kong's ancestors and the events that the new Empire only hinted at. There's still so much we don't know. Why did Scar King become the monster he was? We were promised a layered villain with real motivations and a tragic past, but in the end, he was just a brute dictator who ruled through fear. What we saw in the trailers is exactly what we got. No added layers, no deeper meaning. That's why Son of Kong needs to exist. This movie could finally take things further and reveal Kong in his fullest form, not just as a monster, but as a true king, a leader, a figure of growth and transformation. Right now, Kong's arc feels unfinished. In the final of the new Empire, he officially became king, not just by title, but in spirit. He's no longer the last of his kind, he's the leader. That evolution can't be left hanging. Dropping that development would be a huge mistake. There's currently a theory going around that Kong could die in Godzilla x Kong 3, and that Legendary might use this as a way to bring in the kind of emotional stakes some critics say the MonsterVerse has been lacking. One of the most common complaints is that no one in this universe truly dies, that the threats are defeated too easily, and that the stakes don't really hit. So yeah, killing Kong would be a bombshell moment. It would be dramatic, and could even serve as the origin of Zuko's journey, his motivation to carry on his father's legacy, but realistically that move seems highly unlikely. Kong is the second icon of the MonsterVerse right after Godzilla, and honestly, for some fans, he's the main hero. Killing him off just for shock value would be a risky move that could turn off a huge part of the fan base. The smarter path is giving Kong at least one more movie. Let him raise Zuko. Let him pass on his strength and wisdom. Let him finish his arc with grace and meaning. Then you can think about the future. Then Zuko can step up and take his place as the new prince, a symbol of the next generation of Titans. This isn't just about spectacle anymore. It's about storytelling. And Son of Kong could be the exact moment where the MonsterVerse grows into something more than just giant monsters throwing punches. We still don't know who Zuko's biological parents are. Where are they? Are they even alive? That's a huge piece of the puzzle that the story hasn't touched yet. There's a very real possibility that Zuko is an orphan. Maybe his parents were victims of Scar King's brutal reign. Or maybe his father was a warrior who died fighting against tyranny, while his mother is still out there, hiding somewhere deep within the Hollow Earth. All of these are compelling storylines that could bring some serious emotional weight to a future film, and Son of Kong would be the perfect place to explore them. On top of that, there's still so much we don't understand about the giant apes as a species. How did their society work? What kind of clans or tribes did they form? What were their customs, their hierarchies, their culture? The new Empire started scratching the surface of that world building, but it didn't go deep enough. Yes, Kong finally found his kind, but what now? That development opens the door to so many questions, and the only way to really dive into those answers is through a solo movie. A lot of fans have been asking for this kind of world building, and Legendary seems to know it. The producers have emphasized multiple times that balance is key. They want Kong and Godzilla to stand as equal pillars of the MonsterVerse. That means Kong needs another movie, and everything points to Son of Kong being that film. This project has been in development discussions for a while. It was put on hold so the studio could push forward with Godzilla x Kong 3, but now that the crossover arc is nearing its end, the logical next step is to return to Kong and continue his journey. So Son of Kong isn't just some fan theory or wishful thinking, it's a very real, very likely move from Legendary. All signs point in that direction. The story's already in motion, Zuko has been introduced, Kong's arc is still incomplete, and fans are ready to go deeper, not just into more epic battles, but into the heart of what makes these Titans more than monsters. Son of Kong is the chance to make that happen.